Lesotho is a forgotten kingdom, a tiny piece of land on the world map dwarfed by the surrounding giant, which is South Africa. This tiny African country is quite exceptional. Every winter it is covered in snow. It even has a ski slope. It has an abundance of water, which it supplies to South Africa, a country which desperately lacks it. Such wealth, however, cannot be found within this magnificent country's infrastructure. Lesothans ask only one thing of their king: to modernise their country.
Re a sokola ka nnete ha re tsamaya. Ho latela hore ha re na dikoloi tsa hore re ka re isa mono setsing sa kokelo. Mohlomong o tla re thusa re tsebe mmuso. Ha re ntse re kopa hore re nne re fumane dithuso.
In Lesotho, the roads are so dangerous that bush taxis driven in remote and rural areas are always driven by men. Female taxi drivers are confined to the towns and cities. However, these two jovial rebels have decided to buck the trend. Alice and Fébellina are off to scour the country's tracks in search of new customers. They've spent all their savings on a final service for their minibus. In town, they have a lot of competition. In rural areas, on the other hand, taxis are rare. Alice and Fébellina are hoping to double their income. But their friend William doesn't like the thought of them driving the roads on their own. Only neither Alice nor Fébellina has the means to buy one. Caution is the only thing that can protect them, aside from their family's prayers. The young women hit the road with dreams of big money at the forefront of their minds. But they have forgotten one thing. Unlike in town, road signs here are rare.
Direction.
Driving a bush taxi is no mean feat, and Alice and Fébellina's problems are only just beginning. Working in town now seems all too simple.
timing out. Now, who gets it? Here's a lena in Picanit, Nagas have impia holo and really would marry low. The little class has heavily. Pick out that like you are down out to over. When I choose like when I'm primates, the primates get a react. I can't interpret and get a metal. What I say, yes, pay your money to get number 2. Yes, I have a layer. And go more. Yaga hike sense that you get some. Ever say, pay your money. Yes, I'm a lesson that you be a pig. No man, I guess, how? Hey, what's what I'm not going to go. Fébellina o tla ithola. O hana ke ga theowe ke theole koloi. O rena o tsamaya fatshe ka moo.
Between taking on the descent herself or letting her friend take the wheel, Alice has quickly made her choice. Though the outside temperature may be no more than 10 degrees, the old Korean taxi suddenly feels like a pressure cooker.
Motame o kgona ho lokisa koloi jwale ke mohlala ha o ka thola o la jwale ka ha ke se nketse ba hore ya ipotsa na ntse ka teng kwana ho tla etsahala jwang bona ka motho tlo bana sente a se goballang ka ntle ka sheo.
And they still haven't found any customers to transport. Alice and Fébellina haven't taken into account one important factor. In Lesotho, many people travel through the country on horseback. It's the only form of transport which allows access to villages not served by the tracks. This horde of riders aren't just out for a stroll, they're here to keep the peace.
Bontate bana na bo ba bona mona ke bontate ba mahokela ba thibelang ditlolo tsa molao tsohle tse tsalang ka go naga ena ya Lesotho mme ke batho ba hokelanang le sepolesa hantle mapolesa ke batho ba ratang go tsamaya ka dikoloi jwale o tla fumana hona le dibaka tse sa fihleleng ka dikoloi se batlang dipere fela jwale ke tsena tse o tla fumana di tlama hore mahokelana a ho fihla ho tsona.
Remaketsa and his men have been hired by the police to maintain law and order. They are referred to as the Wrath of the Lion. The militia holds all rights to enforce the law, or in any case, it exercises them, and they have no mercy with a certain type of thief.
Hantle le baka le tsang ke khothalle ho tsamaya ka metse ka mona ke sheba bona ho tsela motse o hobane se ke le motho a iphidisang ebile a phelang ka thepa ya bonya le Basotho le mo diphoofolo le tse ding Jwalo ka mabaka gobane o tla fumana gore ditlodi tsa tsa molao wa re fihla ka go metse ya bona ebe ga ba batle ba bang gore ba tshwarwe ebe ba lwana go qeteletse o fumana ba go tlha ditlolo tsa molao tse kang bo tshollo ya madi.
According to Remaketsa, making an example is the only way of warding off cattle thieves. But there's a downside to the fear the militia instills. The Lesothans don't like them very much. On his horse, surrounded by his men, Remaketsa is all-powerful. But in a few days' time, he will find himself behind the wheel on one of the most dangerous roads in the country. And it's there he will have to face his fears. In this country which lacks so much, resourcefulness remains the key for the inhabitants of the Sierra. Never too careful, Nelson has made his fuel tank flap into a small safe. Nelson is a travelling gas station attendant. He buys the precious liquid in cities to resell it to the highest bidder.
Filling station about 62 kilos go fitla pele mme ha ke ga tlametse mane ke thusa batho ba tsamaelang dibekeng tse ka reng bo Matebele gore ha ba hloka petrol mohlomong taxi e fumane petrol motho a generator ga motseng a fumane petrol.
There are neither buses nor any public transport on these mountain roads, so there's an unspoken rule amongst drivers: don't leave anyone at the side of the road. They may be their last hope of transportation. The road is long and difficult, so Nelson keeps his spirits up with the help of substances which are very dangerous for drivers.
These seats must be taken out. This is the sound it's
Aside from a penalty, which is unlikely in this remote area, smoking weed at the wheel can have dramatic consequences, particularly when driving on the edge of ravines, but Nelson seems blissfully unaware.
Focusing on one thing, especially when I'm driving. I just focus on my car, so I prefer. Ke rata o khanna ke tsuba because koloi ke ntho e kotsi e batlang focus jwale ke kutlumari wana ngitsa go.
It does seem, however, that this forbidden indulgence has taken its toll on the state of Nelson's car, and apparently his boss is none the wiser as to why. The next incident will surely cost him his job as a driver, and maybe more.
And go into right where let's go half the skiers of the Gashokola. How correct I get the little tolerable. I live in Tottenham, say, you will lie. You will lie top.
Litres and litres of water for the engine, but still no customers for our two bush taxi drivers. Finally, a customer, and 16 lotis in their pocket. That's around €1.
Yes, a license got the land it's a guy. You find out get it problem. Or you can elevate. Musabatu and our Hana, they say you must have to own that day. Impalanas exactly like you can let's say Hana.
The difficult roads aren't all bad, as the time taken to negotiate them brings along another customer.
Daddy, oh, yeah, guys. Didn't make him a thing, Linda Calabakalam, Launa Musevitio, so Ula Hafapo. I got my Alina because Kimutel and Halekimu Kaiti, Teresa Tanya Daliana, so Namusevitio can so says I believe it's a how fella, how can I tassel out the Selena, that's why it's
As women who drive bush taxis in Lesotho are few and far between, they tend to command people's respect. In a few kilometres' time, this group of travellers will quickly change their mind. But this descent may quickly bring the mood down. The track is incredibly slippery and the precipice dizzying. This young woman, who's used to driving in towns, is struggling to control her old taxi, and she has a unique way of reassuring her passengers.
Ke nagana go mohlomong mataere a fedile jwale ga lo jwalo he ore se tla ntlhatswa matso ko tshware ka morago ka mona bo thoo ke nagana nka ka tla ka morago go tla ba betere gobane wa lelemela ke go tlo tseba gore e tle fitlhe tlase le ka gobane e nana ke bobaeko ke go tshwara gore e eme tsitsi
Bana ka ehlile ka thusa ya lobela ehlile nna ntse ke tshwile go gagwa etheo koloi nna ga ke bile tswa gana nyenyane thono ngwane eso ga nyenyane tatsi la ka la o shwale
tsela mo tla bona tsela ya hantle o tsamaela ka gaete ka moo
e tšhele moketime banna mofola ka o jaive
tsamaya straight
go boima lefatsheng da re rata re ja joy di re ja mela a tšhikere ke re jalo ke ka tshwana le wena
With the worst of the panic over, Alice and Fébellina find their passengers again, who are shocked to see them arrive in one piece. With all the day's excitement, they've worked up a hunger. They've pocketed €5, which means they can treat themselves.
nna re ja re ba bedi dijo tsena di monate wa re se re tlwaetse re rata tsona tsena ke tsona dijo tse re tlwaetseng go dija gagolo feta ganyane ke nnete tse re ntse re dija empa se dijo tse re di tlwaetseng jwale tsona tse re phelang ka tsona ke tsona tse re natefelang a he moro ona e kgona ka nnete nna o ntshwarisa le leshokolla ko jile nako e telele jwale a ke na le go dukwe ke sa o batle
But meat can be a rare treat, as Alice and Fébellina earn an average of around €1,000 a year. Nelson, the travelling gas station attendant, has barely moved on his journey to deliver gas to the mountain villages. He's been driving without a break for 6 hours and he's only travelled 40 kilometres. He's taken the tracks situated deep down inside the canyons, which are particularly stony and uneven. Nelson is 20 kilometres away from the village. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a long way when it's travelled at night. The dangers are plentiful. Rather than take on wild animals and thieves, Nelson and his 2 lucky passengers opt to camp out for the night. But not just anywhere. The mountains of Lesotho are riddled with caves. Some are a bit like time machines which harbour the oldest rock paintings in the world.
ba sebedisa madi a tsona mohlomong ka go nagana ba gona go ba etse di-drawing jalo ka dipente ba ne ba sena mo ba reng ke dishopong ba thola mello teng ka re ne ba sebedisa manyetana le ditlamatlama go etsa mello le ha lena ka o tloba wa bona gore ke ntho eo modimo o e entseng gore e be teng fela eo ba ileng ba phela go yona e leng go no hlokala fela gore di bolokwe mme di baballwe ke yona taba e bohlokwa.
It's near freezing and not much warmer by the fireside. As for Alice and Fébellina, they've now warmed up. Today's jackpot means they can let their hair down. The next morning, last night's party is starting to take its toll, but it certainly hasn't dampened their spirits. The young women are heading to the Valley of the Horses. Today, their main aim is not to find customers, but to attend an important event for Alice.
Lo bapala papadi ena races ya dipere
go bona re tlameya gore re lo mo support la ha o ntse o le jwalo ha re na bothata ba tsela ha fela koloi ka ya khutla re mo supportile a le sharp le gona re tla be re le sharp re rata re ka bona le hantle.
Horse races aren't fought out on a racetrack, but on the mountain plateaus of Lesotho. Here, the riders are considered to be heroes. Every week, they trek long distances to line up on the start line. Alice's cousin Entai is pulling his whole fortune behind him.
Mojao ho nna ke tare ke papadi ene e molemo. Mo no papading eno ya rone ke thola mo ke wina molemo. Ke khona ho kwala gore ntho ngwe le ngwe e bang ke sita ho ikwala ha ke bapala papadi ena ke khona ho ikwala. Ke na le dilemo tse ka fihlang 15. Ha ke kala ke qadile ya le bilo e sa matheng terepedi. Ka nna ka ya jwalo ho fihlela ke ba le bui ha ntse ke hlola batho ba bang ka papadi ena nang ke bapalang. Ke ba le phihlelo ba hore ke ka ba le pere tse pedi ya terepele le ya lebilo.
But things aren't about to go as smoothly as Entai might hope. With no posters and no advertising to promote it, talk of the race has spread from village to village, carried on the wind and by travellers. As if by magic, 300 people have gathered on this small piece of land. Each will gamble their meagre savings in the hope of improving their lot.
Number 1, we go to Lama Hulama, number 2, we go to La.
Entai lines up at the starting line, cheered on by Alice and Fébellina. The race is underway. But suddenly, just as he's about to take the lead, Entai's horse swerves off course. Entai makes a spectacular comeback but crosses the line in second place. Entai would win it hands down. Alongside his horse, the young man not only takes part in races, but also does life-saving work. Not all riders are able to maintain their speed when they swap the reins for the wheel. Like Remaketsa, head of the militiamen, on his horse he is feared across the whole mountain, but when he swaps his armour for a taxi, he becomes a man like any other, one with flaws and fears, especially on this road, which he's taking on for the first time. Remaketsa has collected people from his village in South Africa. The militiaman is not scared of a punch-up with his enemies, but the further he gets down this track, the more scared he becomes.
Sani Pass ya kwana tsela ene pa etsa ho ne ke sa lebella thepetso ka ganye na ebile teng go molana na ene se bi ba ka go tlotsa.
Ramaketsa is taking on the Sani Pass for the first time. The track connects South Africa to Lesotho. It's about 40 kilometers of treacherous zigzags bordered on all sides by ravines.
Yantate bana ho latela tsela MP khona tsena di haufinyana na tse motho o se ka tsa motho sa ga sheshe
ke nana go koloi sa twa ya mosola ba ya dijela ka tlase ka gona ya ba ya bolai ka bona go lema
ke hantse ile ha ntshwa ga hantse go latela tsela e leng ka yona e ile Sani Pass ina le go ina le tlokotsi ho gunegela batho di bile bjala maphelo a gone tlokotsi.
The proud militiaman has admitted defeat. For him, pursuing thieves is much easier than driving on this deadly road. The climb is never ending. The mountain pass peaks at 3,000 meters above sea level. This driver has had a lucky escape. Now he just needs to get his car out of the ditch, but that's a challenge in itself. Ramaketsa realizes he was right to relinquish control of the wheel. Most Lesothans want their little country to become a part of South Africa. The African giant is a modern country which is constantly developing, unlike their kingdom.
Lesotho la kopana le South Africa mohlolo mong
fela ba le teng Lesotho le na le tšhelete ke ditaemane ka ga Lesotho motlakase wa fehla ka ga Lesotho ke metsi a mangata ka ga Lesotho empa ha o bone South Africa e reka metsi Lesotho ha o bone gore na ditšhelete tsena kaofela di etsetsa Lesotho eng o bona ho iphedisa bona le ba malapa a bona ha ile setšhaba ha ona ntho ba re le thoka yona.
Lesotho's riches lie in the form of its snow. It's a striking image and quite exceptional for Africa. It's thanks to this that Lesotho is referred to as a water tower. It's the highest country in Africa, and its lowest point is found at 1,300 meters above sea level. Winter is in full force in the month of August. During this time, temperatures drop below freezing, around -10 degrees.
That's good, but
And seeing as man has learned to tame the snow, Lesotho and South Africa are home to the only ski slopes in this part of the continent. Amongst the avid skiers are few Lesothans and lots of South Africans. Skiing is not an affordable hobby for the majority of Lesothans. Alice and Fébellina have never seen skiers in their lives.
Nkampa ke ga kena tšhelete ka ga ka mazimba ka nna le go ke etse jwalo nna ka nnete la ka batho ke na le tšhelete ke ithakela direction ba ke direction kapa ke direction ha ke tsebe ke a reka ke a šomotha ke je gore jurjit kampeng ha se ntho e tlwaelehileng ho pakeng sa batho ba batsho e tlwaelehile bathong ba basweu ke yona ntho e ba e ratang haholo le ha lehlwa le qala le nna fela re bona ka bona gore ba nyolwa ba ya ka mane ka ofisi
ke a rata ho tla mara mosebetsi wa ka if nka ba le tšhelete nka tatella ke tlile hobane ke ntho e ke e kgalla mohle ha ke tsamaya mole ke feta ke ba bona ho so.
A can of soda and a head full of dreams are all Alice and Fébellina can enjoy at this ski resort reserved for South Africa's golden youth. While waiting for the country to develop, its inhabitants must look out for each other. In the villages, everyone chips in and helps in whatever way they can. When he's not competing in horse races, Entai transforms into a paramedic. This elderly woman has called for his help.
Fumane molaetsa wa hore o hloka thuso ya hore nka o nka ka pere ho ya ka ngakeng.
Ke a kula ntate, ehlile ke kopile hore mpo tlo tla nkisa ka ngakeng.
Ho hana kae?
Ka mahetleng le ka sefubeng. Mangole. Re a sokola ka nnete ha re tsamaya. Ho latela hore ha rena dikoloi tsa hore di ka re isa mono setsing sa kokelo. Mohlomong o tla re thusa re tsebe mmuso. Ha re ntse re kopa hore re nne re fumane dithuso.
In a lot of pain, the elderly lady will have to endure a day on horseback to reach the hospital.
Tse lo ne di etsahala kgale. Ora ha ke hloke ha ka ba go bohloko bane le ena ha o dutse a etsa hore ke file ke thabile gore ha ona mohlanka ka reng o dutse o kgentshitse. Hobane hana jwale ke bohloko hobane ha ke sa kgona ho thola dipale kapa ditshomo ho yena hobane wa kula. O se ke jwa ke bodutu ha kula tsenana. Ke ntho e tlwaelehileng empa tjhe bong ha se kaofela ba etsang. Ehlile ke tla re mona motseng mona wa mona ke nna e kgothalletseng ho etsa ntho eo. Ke nna e kgothalletseng ho etsa hobane ke tseba melemo ya bona hore na hore ke nkile motho e mong le mong a moholo e leng motswadi wa.
There is a saying in Lesotho, sitting down and doing nothing won't get the thorn out of your side. They fight every day just to try and make their life a little bit easier.